Get away from my daughter, you black rat. That little girl was Emily Everett, 5 years old, daughter of one of Chicago's most powerful men. And now that man stood over them tall, furious, and unrelenting. John Everett. You have no shame, do you? He spat, stepping between the girls. You thought you'd charm her, get into her good graces, and maybe her father's wallet while you're at it. Maya blinked, confused. I didn't even know who she was. I was just dancing. Right. He scoffed. You just happened to pick the richest child in the park to spin circles with. Maya's voice trembled, but she held her ground. I dance here every weekend. I do it to raise money for my mom. She's sick. I didn't know who your daughter was. You people always have a story, John muttered, his voice lower now, almost bitter, always an excuse. The whispers from around the park had started even before John arrived. Who's the girl? One man had asked. Never seen her here before, a woman murmured. She's just trying to look good next to a white kid. Someone else whispered. Maybe she's one of those street kids, clever enough to know how to grab attention. Maya had heard it all. She turned to Emily, who was still giggling, blissfully unaware of the hate now swirling around them. John stepped closer. You don't get to lie your way into our lives, he hissed. You don't belong here. Ma's hands curled into fists. You don't get to talk to me like that. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not trying to scam anyone. I'm just trying to help my mom. And then, without warning, he grabbed her by the shoulder and shoved her backward. If you feel for this character, like this video and comment where you are watching from. You might find someone nearby watching, too. Maya stumbled and crashed into the metal bench behind her. Her ribs slamming hard against the edge. Pain burst across her side. Her speaker fell and cracked against the concrete. She gasped, clutching her arm, trying not to cry. Daddy, Emily cried. Why did you do that? We're leaving, he snapped and turned to grab the wheelchair handles. No, wait, Emily said, her voice strained. I want to stay with her. She had barely spoken a word all week now. She reached out a trembling hand toward Maya. John stopped for half a second, but then began pushing Emily away, his jaw tight. As he walked, his phone buzzed. He fumbled it from his coat pocket, answering with irritation. What is it now? He barked, distracted. He didn't notice the slight slope in the walkway, or the way one wheel of Emily's chair caught on a crack in the pavement. His hand slipped from the handle. The wheelchair began to roll slow at first, then faster, headed straight for the curb and the road beyond. Emily, someone shouted, but Maya was already running, ignoring the pain in her side and the blood trickling down her shin from the earlier fall. She bolted from the bench, her legs pumping, lungs burning. The chair kept rolling. Emily screamed. Maya reached it just as the front wheels dipped off the curb. She slammed her body into the back of the wheelchair, halting it inches from the path of an oncoming car. The driver slammed the brakes, horn blaring. Maya hit the pavement hard, scraping both knees. Emily was safe. The world was chaos for a moment, shouting, gasps, the sound of tires screeching. John turned, stunned. Emily, he ran back, his face pale as ash. Emily was crying. She saved me, Daddy. She saved me. John looked down at Maya, bruised, bleeding, still catching her breath. He dropped to one knee beside her. I didn't know. He paused, swallowed. Are you all right? Maya didn't answer. She looked up at him, eyes hard. You called me a rat, she said softly. You pushed me. You made me feel like I was nothing. I was wrong, he said. I saw what I wanted to see. I thought you were just trying to use us. I was trying to make her smile, Mia said. That's all. John glanced at his daughter now, smiling through tears, touching Mia's hand gently. She hasn't smiled like that in months, he whispered. She hasn't even spoken like that in days. He took a breath, voice shaking. I don't know how to make this right, but I'd like to try if you're willing. I'd like to offer you something. A job? Not charity. A chance to be around Emily. You make her happy and that means more than I can say. Maya stood slowly, pain lacing her movement. She looked at Emily. The little girl's eyes were pleading. She looked at John again. Just don't ever grab me like that again, she said. John nodded. Never. Maya nodded too, then sat back down beside Emily. And for the first time in a long time, the park was quiet again. The wind had softened. It rustled the leaves gently as Maya sat beside Emily on the same bench where she'd been shoved only minutes ago. The sting in her scraped knees and ribs pulsed with every breath, but she didn't flinch. Emily's small hands still held hers tightly, and that warmth meant something more than the pain, more than the eyes still watching from a distance. John Everett stood nearby, shifting uncomfortably, still unsure how to untangle the mess he'd caused with one outburst and one shove. The words he'd used echoed in his head. Vile, cutting, shameful. He was used to controlling rooms full of executives, negotiating billion-dollar deals without blinking. But here, in front of an 8-year-old girl with blood on her leg and fire in her eyes, he felt completely unarmed. I can take you to the hospital, he said awkwardly, his voice softer now. Or have someone come here. Maya shook her head. I've had worse, she mumbled. He hesitated. At least let me drive you home. She looked at him sideways. What will people think? Seeing your daughter with someone like me, he winced. Maya. Emily tugged at his coat. I want her to come home with us. Maya blinked. What? I want you to come just for a while, Emily said, her voice steady, her gaze pleading. To my house. John took a breath. He had built his life on reputation, timing, and control. But this moment, raw and unscripted, he couldn't spin it. All he knew was that his daughter, who hadn't shown emotion in weeks, was suddenly alive in front of him because of Maya. I meant what I said earlier, he told Maya about working with us. You wouldn't be a maid or a babysitter. You'd be a companion to Emily, a friend she needs. I'll make sure you're paid well, and your mother shall get the care she needs. Maya didn't answer. Her mind spun faster than her feet ever could. It felt like a dream. No, a trap. But Emily was watching her with those honest, glassy eyes, not as a charity case. As someone she chose. Okay, Maya said at last, almost a whisper, but I have to call my mom first. The Everett townhouse in Gold Coast stood like a fortress of glass and stone, quiet and cold from the outside. Maya had never seen a home like it, not even on television. The elevator doors opened into a wide living space with sleek black leather couches, abstract art on the walls, and floor-to-ceiling windows that framed Lake Michigan like a painting. Emily rolled in comfortably, greeting the housekeeper, Mrs. Dominguez, with a smile Mia didn't expect. John gestured for Mia to sit. I'll bring the first aid kit. Make yourself comfortable. Maya stood awkwardly by the door. I don't want to ruin anything. Emily patted the seat beside her. You already fixed something. Maya sat careful not to lean on her bruised side. The couch felt too soft, too expensive. She watched Emily, who now seemed brighter, more talkative. She showed Maya her favorite toy, a stuffed fox named George, and explained how she hated hospital food, but loved peanut butter toast. You're really funny, Emily said, giggling at something Maya had said. Not like the adults. I'm not one yet, Mia smirked. But give me a few years. John returned with the kit and knelt beside her. He opened it with practiced hands. May I? Maya hesitated, then nodded. He gently cleaned the scrapes, dabbing antiseptic and bandaging her knees and elbow. His hands were steady now. His expression serious. I don't expect you to forgive me today, he said. But I want you to know this isn't a publicity stunt. I don't care if people see us with you. I care about what Emily needs. Ma tilted her head. And what do you need, Mr. Everett? He looked at her startled. "I need peace," he said finally. "And I think maybe you just brought some into this house." Later, after dinner, something called baked salmon with lemon butter and asparagus, which Maya had never tasted before. John offered to drive her home. The car ride was quiet. Mia stared out the window, still unsure if everything had been real. The city lights blurred against the tinted glass as the car turned onto her block, a far cry from the pristine streets of Gold Coast. When the SUV parked, John stepped out first, opening the door for her. It was small, but Maya noticed. "I'll come get you tomorrow if you're willing," he said. "We can talk more about the details." Maya nodded. "I'll ask my mom." She stepped out, glancing once more at the vehicle behind her. It didn't belong on this street. Neither, she thought, did people like him. As the car pulled away, she turned and ran up the stairs to the small second-floor apartment she called home. Her mother was waiting at the door, wrapped in a faded cardigan, eyes full of worry. "Maya, you're bleeding." "Baby, what happened?" Maya pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. "Mama, I think something big just happened." Her mother pulled back, inspecting her bandaged knees and the scratch on her cheek. "Start talking, honey." And Maya did, about the dance, about the man, about the push and the save, about the offer. Her mother listened in stunned silence, then finally spoke. "Did he mean it about helping us?" "I think so." Her mother exhaled. "Well, then you trust your gut, baby. If your gut says go, you go." Maya nodded slowly. "He called me a rat." Her mother's eyes hardened. "Then you show him he was wrong." That night, Maya lay awake in her bed, staring at the ceiling. In the silence, she replayed the moment she caught the wheelchair. The look in Emily's eyes, the crack in John Everett's voice. The way her heart had beat so loud it drowned out the horns and shouts. Somewhere between the hurt and the hope, a strange feeling crept into her chest. Not fear, possibility. The next morning was quiet. The kind of quiet that makes every sound feel louder than it should. The soft click of the bathroom faucet, the creak of the old wood floor, even the buzzing of a single fly circling the windowsill. Maya sat at the small kitchen table, her knees still sore, one hand wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug filled with microwaved cocoa. Her mother, Vanessa, moved slowly behind her. The illness had taken its toll. One hand pressed against her lower back, her skin pale with exhaustion. But today she seemed more alert, watching her daughter closely. "He said he's sending a car at 7, Maya said. Vanessa arched a brow. "And you're going?" Maya nodded, though her fingers tightened on the mug. "You sure, baby? You only met that man yesterday. He put his hands on you. He threw words at you like you were less than a person." "I know." Maya stared down at the swirl of chocolate in her cup. "But his daughter's different. Emily. She looked at me like I was good. And when I danced, she came alive." Vanessa sat across from her slowly. "I've watched you fight to be seen your whole life. Don't go somewhere you'll disappear again." Maya looked up firm. "I won't disappear. I'll shine. Even in that big glass house." At exactly 10:02, a sleek black sedan pulled up in front of their apartment. The driver stepped out, gray suit, calm smile, and opened the back door for Maya like she was royalty. Vanessa stood at the door watching, holding back both pride and fear. "Text me when you get there," she called softly. Maya nodded. "I will." Back at the Everett residence, the mood was different from the day before. Colder. John stood at the window in his home office, watching the car approach. His assistant had already reminded him of 2 meetings he was late for. But his thoughts weren't on business. They were on the girl he'd pushed, the girl who had saved his daughter's life. When Maya stepped into the foyer, truncated 81,585 characters, PS brought in lines around the block, and her voice became a staple on panels once reserved for political veterans and corporate donors. But behind closed doors, a storm was brewing. One Friday morning, Maya arrived at the office to find John pacing outside her door. There's something you need to see, he said, handing her a tablet. She took it, brows furrowing as she tapped the screen. It was a new article, this time from a major outlet. Whistleblower alleges fraud inside Everett Foundation, misuse of funds, suppression of minority voices. Maya's throat tightened. She scrolled through, scanning allegations ranging from inappropriate grant allocation to claims that the foundation was tokenizing black and brown leaders for publicity. John ran a hand through his hair. We've traced the leak to someone inside. Who? Maya asked, heart thudding. He hesitated, then said softly. Evelyn? Maya set the tablet down slowly. She wants the foundation to burn just to prove I shouldn't have been allowed to rise. It gets worse, John added grimly. The article implies you were complicit in covering up donation mismanagement. Maya stared at him, stunned. That's a lie. I know that. But public opinion doesn't care about nuance. The door swung open and Marcus Lowe entered looking flustered. It's everywhere now. News outlets are picking it up. We need a response fast. Mia took a deep breath. Then we give them the truth. That evening, John and Maya held an emergency press conference. The room was packed. Journalists jostling for position, cameras blinking, microphones clustered like a wall of metal and wires. Maya stepped up to the podium first. I've always believed that truth, no matter how painful, is the only path to justice, she began. So, let me be clear. I have never misused foundation resources. Every dollar I've helped raise has gone toward building programs, lifting communities, and empowering voices that were never meant to be silenced. She glanced at John, who nodded subtly. We have launched an independent audit led by a nonpartisan ethics firm. If there is wrongdoing, we will find it. And if there is guilt, it will not be ignored no matter who is responsible. Reporters shouted questions. Maya raised a hand for silence. I will not let this foundation become a battlefield for ego or fear, and I will not let my identity be used as a weapon against the truth. John spoke next, confirming the internal breach and naming Evelyn as the source of unauthorized leaks and false claims. He did so not with rage, but with disappointment. She allowed resentment to eclipse purpose, he said. But this place, our mission, cannot afford to crumble under the weight of personal vendettas. That weekend, Maya retreated into quiet. She walked through her old neighborhood alone, past the corner store where her mother once bought groceries on credit, past the bus stop she used to wait at every morning in rain or heat, and finally to the park where she had first met Emily. Children still played there. Life, as always, moved forward. She sat on the same bench where she once fell, bloodied and humiliated by the hands of a man who would later become her fiercest ally. Funny how the arc of things bent when truth had room to breathe. Hey, stranger, a voice said behind her. She turned to see Marcus approaching holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. I figured you'd be here, he said, handing her one. She smiled faintly. You're not scared. The world's about to end. He shrugged. I've lived through worse and I've never bet against someone with your kind of fire. They sat in silence for a moment, watching the sky change colors. I'm thinking of stepping down, Maya said suddenly. Marcus didn't flinch. Why? Because it's become about me, not the work. Or maybe it's because the work finally has a face, he replied. And the people who benefit from shadows don't like that face being yours. Maya looked at him. You think staying is the right move? I think letting them push you out makes their job too easy. She didn't respond right away. The wind rustled through the trees, scattering leaves like whispers. Then she said, maybe I'll stay a little longer. On Monday morning, Evelyn was officially removed from the board. The ethics firm cleared Maya of any wrongdoing. Donor confidence began to return, but more importantly, the public rallied. Letters flooded in from across the country. Teachers, students, single mothers, veterans, each thanking Maya for standing tall, for being visible, for not backing down. Emily made her a handmade You're My Hero crown out of construction paper and glitter glue. Vanessa, upon seeing it, laughed through her tears. I never doubted for a second. Maya wore the crown all day. That night, John took Maya and Vanessa to a small community gala in their old neighborhood. The auditorium was modest, the chairs were fold-up metal, and the walls were decorated with handmade posters and art from local kids. But the room buzzed with something deeper than prestige, genuine, hard-won joy. An older man approached Maya near the punch table. "You're the one they keep talking about on television." She nodded. "I suppose I am." He smiled, eyes twinkling. "Keep talking, girl. Some of us are just now starting to hear." And in that moment, Maya realized something. Truth didn't need to be shouted from marble steps or broadcast through polished microphones. Sometimes it simply needed to be spoken clearly, boldly, with love. And she still had so much more to say. The morning sun filtered through gauzy curtains, casting golden stripes across Mia's notebook. She sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, pen in hand, scribbling thoughts that had been stirring for weeks. There were no speeches to prepare for today. No cameras waiting. No headlines hanging over her head. Just quiet. Just purpose. Vanessa peeked in, coffee mug in hand. "You writing another revolution?" Maya smiled without looking up. "Just some thoughts. Maybe for a book. Make sure you leave space for the chapters you haven't lived yet," Vanessa said gently, setting the coffee beside her. Maya looked up and said softly, "I've been thinking about legacy." Vanessa raised an eyebrow. "That's a mighty big word for someone who still leaves socks on the couch." "I'm serious," Maya said. "What we leave behind, what we build, and what we teach others to carry forward." Her voice carried a quiet gravity, one that only came from someone who'd fought for her voice in a world that kept trying to hush it. Vanessa sat beside her. "Then make sure that legacy is yours, baby. Not the one they tried to write for you." Later that afternoon, Maya stood on the community center stage. The same stage where she once taught dance to kids who had never stepped inside a studio. This time, she wasn't leading choreography. She was unveiling something far greater. Emily sat in the front row with a glittery sign that read, "The Maya Movement." John sat beside her, beaming with quiet pride. Around them, families, activists, journalists, and local leaders had gathered. The energy in the room felt like thunder waiting to erupt. Maya approached the podium, adjusted the mic, and took a deep breath. "When I was 9 years old," she began. "I danced on sidewalks because we couldn't afford lessons. When I was 12, I watched my mother work 3 jobs to keep the lights on. At 15, I was thrown onto the ground and called a rat for daring to dance beside a little girl who looked different than me. And now at 17, I'm standing here to launch something I could only dream of back then." Applause rippled softly. "This isn't just an organization. It's a movement, a promise. The Maya movement will fund arts education in underserved communities, provide scholarships for youth leaders, and build bridges between neighborhoods that were never meant to remain divided." She paused, meeting the eyes of the young kids staring up at her, wide-eyed and hopeful. "We were never supposed to stay silent. We were supposed to shine. So today, we make room for every voice that was told it didn't belong." The room erupted in cheers. John stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. "There's one more surprise," he said. "Come with me." Confused but curious, Maya followed him through the back hallway to a courtyard behind the center. What stood there took her breath away, a mural 10 feet high and stretching across the entire back wall. It showed Maya mid-dance, arms outstretched, eyes closed in joy. Behind her, shadowy figures representing children of every race and background followed her lead. At the top in bold letters, she danced first, then she led. Tears welled in Maya's eyes. Who painted this?" "A collective of young artists from all over the city," John replied. "They called it a thank you." Maya touched the wall gently. "It feels like a beginning." "It is," he said. "And this time, you're not doing it alone." As twilight settled in, a celebration unfolded inside the community center. Laughter echoed through the halls. Music played and Maya found herself spinning in a circle with Emily on the dance floor, surrounded by children who had once only watched from the sidelines. Vanessa stood off to the side talking with city officials about community partnerships, while John spoke with a group of donors, each one eager to support Mia's vision. In a rare moment of stillness, Mia slipped outside for air. The street lights glowed like stars and the night was calm. She reached into her bag and pulled out the notebook again. She wrote, "We are not meant to survive alone. The road is hard, the world unfair, but hope grows in community. Today, I saw my mother's sacrifice bloom into something real. I saw a city begin to heal, and I finally believe my story matters. Not because it's loud, but because it's true." A soft voice behind her interrupted the silence. "You always writing?" "It was Marcus, always thinking," she replied. He leaned on the railing beside her. "You did something big today." "We did," Maya said. "But I'm not finished. There's still more to change, more to build." "You've become something this world doesn't quite know how to handle," he said with a smile, an honest voice that refuses to be molded. She looked at him. "Is that dangerous?" "Absolutely. But it's also exactly what we need." That night, back at home, Maya tucked Emily into bed. The little girl clutched her favorite stuffed elephant, drowsy but smiling. "Do you think people will remember you forever?" Emily asked sleepily. Mia sat on the edge of the bed. "I don't know. I hope they remember what we did, what we changed." Emily blinked up at her. "You're like Harriet Tubman, but with glitter." Mia laughed, brushing Emily's hair from her forehead. "I'll take that." As she turned off the lamp, Emily whispered, "I'm proud of you." "Oh." Mia stood in the doorway, hand on the frame, and replied, "I'm proud of you, too, kiddo." She closed the door softly. The darkness now filled with something brighter than any light. In the days that followed, the Maya movement spread like wildfire. Community centers adopted her model. Schools invited her to speak. National leaders began citing her work. She didn't ask for power. It came because she stood when others knelt. Because she spoke when others whispered. And perhaps most beautifully, she danced again at festivals, at rallies, in school gyms, and on city steps. Her movements were no longer just art. They were symbols of resistance, of unity, of joy rising from pain. From a little girl pushed to the pavement to a young woman who built a platform from stone and scars, Maya William became more than a name. She became a movement, a memory in motion, a legacy that would never stop dancing. This story teaches us that true strength is not defined by wealth, power, or background, but by resilience, courage, and the unwavering belief in one's worth. Maya's journey reminds us that justice often begins with one voice refusing to be silenced, and that even the smallest act of kindness or defiance can ripple into something far greater in a world that often judges by appearances and status. This tale challenges us to look deeper, to recognize humanity, dignity, and potential in everyone. It is a call to listen, to stand up for what's right, and to build bridges where others build walls. Thank you for watching BUP Stories.